Hi guys, hope you're all well. So today I am going to do a dirty pour. So a dirty pour, if you're not familiar, is where we'll mix a number of different colours. In this case I'm using 5 colours today. Pour all of those colours in one cup, turn the cup up onto our board and take it away. And I'll also add in some Resin Blast with that. So that's a Resin 8 product, although I think they've changed it now to called Cell Creator, which helps create an interesting cell effect with the colours. And like with all of these things, you never know quite how it's going to turn out until we turn it up. So for information, I've got a piece of, this is MDF, where I've angled beveled the edges, and I've sprayed it with some black spray paint just to give it a base and seal. In this case, we won't see that as a background colour because the resin will be over the whole thing. I won't be using a blowtorch or a hairdryer with this. We'll pick it up and I'll tip it to cover and probably get my fingers involved to make sure I've covered all of the edges. And I'm using Resin 8 pigments. I've got green, blue, orange, burlesque and a copper blush mica powder. I'm not particularly an artistic person, I just grab those colours because they seem like good ones to use. I have found through my limited practice that using solid opaque colours as the majority colour, if you like, so the largest proportion of the colours that you might use in a dirty pour being opaque, does help to try and avoid it turning into a bit of a mushy mess. But that's just my experience in it, and you never quite know what you're going to get until you get on and do it. So I've pre-mixed my resin. Didn't put you through the boredom of watching me mix. So I'm just going to split this roughly into 5 equal parts. I say roughly. I don't want to be messing around too much because, as we know, the clock is ticking and this stuff will start to slowly set. So starting off with this copper blush. So generally that little scoop that I just took will be enough. There is something like a 1:10 ratio, but whenever you're doing any resin art, depending on the size of the picture of course, or doing maybe some jewellery, you really don't have to worry too much about did you take enough, because usually wherever you scoop up will be ample, and you've still got loads left. So I'm just going to leave that clear on there, because there will be a little bit of that will come out, and that will hopefully, whatever's in there, might help with the flow, the movement of the resin. I'm going to put a couple of drops of Resin Blast in with the solid opaque colours. Just give them all another stir, and then I'm going to pour them all into this single cup here and do like a layering type effect. So a little bit of each, so I'm not going to pour everything in. So there's some orange and then some of this coppery blush rather. And again, I like to do opaque, solid mica, and then opaque. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Nothing scientific. And I'm not measuring these out either. I'm just going to pour a bit at a time until I've used it all up. And you can kind of do these in any order. It's part of the magic, not knowing what's going to happen when you tip it all up at the other end. Also, you might not be able to see it in shot, but I'm going to do a time lapse of this setting, because often with these resin, any of the resin pictures, there will be a lot of movement in the art as it sets. Especially I find with colours like mica. Getting fuller than what I thought this mug cup rather. It's good to have, when you're doing a dirty pour, the cup to best fit the volume of resin that you're using if you can. You might find, like with any of these pieces of resin that you do, you'll end up, you know, I probably will go back to these cups to scoop a little bit more out. Yeah, we'll just put a bit more of this in, and then we'll see if we can get it on. Right, so I've got that bit of resin on there. I'm going to turn that up. Oop, managed to spill a bit, don't want to lose that. And then just going to let that settle for a few moments. I am going to see if I can be able to recover some of this resin underneath in case I need it. So I can just about see the front of that. One of the things I am going to try and do, and if it doesn't work, I'm not going to worry too much about it. I should have been, now that it doesn't feel like it's going to work, I should have come up with a pin. It sometimes helps to pin prick to take that vacuum out. Okay. I'm gonna lift up. Look at that. How magical. And then we just gently start to tip it towards the corners. Not going to worry that it's going to spill over the edge, because it's going to anyway, and we partly want that effect. But we obviously need to not lose the whole lot off the side. Not that you will lose it all off the side. So what I'm trying to do is just gently tip it towards each corner a little bit more each time. It can be a little bit stubborn moving sometimes, and you will give it a little bit more of a tip. Sorry if you can't see that at the moment. Right, I'm going to pop that there for a minute. I'm going to grab and just see if we can get a little bit more out, which we will by the looks of things. This will be a little bit more mixed, but it will serve the purpose of getting these corners if you want, you can take your finger around the edge. So I'm moving the resin that's right near the edge to cover that part. And then in a moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the individual colours and just put a couple of spots on the picture just to see what happens. Hopefully you can see those cells on the picture from that Resi Blast effect. From my understanding, most of these cell forming additives, if you like, that we put in, it's almost like a contaminant. Well, it is a contaminant. So when you're thinking about, I'm sure I've done pictures before when I've had maybe a little bit of water somehow that's got involved, and you get an interesting effect. Right. So it's like usually they're a silicone. So I'm just going to have quite a bit of this blue left, which is a nice blue. So I'm just going to dribble some of that over. See what happens. Got some of this copper blush. And again, I'm not really thinking about too much about what I'm doing. I've noticed that those lines are kind of jumped out a bit. They're not quite in keeping with the rest. So I will go over the picture in a moment with my torch to get the air bubbles out, and I might just use it to see if I can move some of those lines a little bit. Gloves off when I'm handling the torch, because I don't want to get my torch messy. I'm going to go over the whole thing first, just to get any air bubbles out, which there will be. Yeah, it doesn't want to move those colours too much. So I'm just going to get my craft torch and just give these a little bit of a just they don't want to move too much. The blue's quite nice. I quite like there where there's a blue line. That seems to work a little bit better. And like with all of these pictures, it is knowing when to stop. And I'm probably at the point now where I should just step away. But you're always thinking, is there something else I can do? Yeah, I like the blue line with what I'm doing at the moment, but I don't really like, not that it's awful, this coppery blush, but it's always seeing what happens. So I've used that Dremel torch over it to get the air bubbles out. This crafty torch here will do it as well to a certain degree. And I'm just going to go over this again. Perfect. So I'm going to leave it like that. We'll see how different it looks, and it'll be interesting to see what the time-lapse video shows of how this will change shape, because one of the things that happens, you can't see it too much, or you can see it dripping down, kind of moves out from the center, so as the resin drips off it pulls the resin down as well. So there you have it. Until next time.